Hi, I'm Roy from Roy's Garage. Today I'm going to be working on a 2010 Lexus GX460. I'm going to show you how to replace the rear brake pads, rear rotors, and adjust the rear emergency brake shoes. So these are the tools I'm going to be using today to do this job. Hood prop, rubber mallet, flat tip screwdriver, another flat tip screwdriver, 17mm wrench, 10mm wrench, my Caliper piston compressor, Phoenix brake flusher, air gun, anti-seize, ceramic grease, bottle of water with a hole on the top, suction ball, and brake clean. These are the parts I'm going to be using today to do this job. Rear brake pads, rear rotors, and .3 brake fluid. So first I'm going to be loosening the bleeder screw. Okay, so now I'm going to be removing this caliper. So there's two bolts right here, 17mm. Just remove it. Okay, so we're just going to be putting this on the side. So removing these pads. So we're going to be removing the caliper mount. There's two bolts right here, 17mm bolts. So we're going to be removing the rotor. So now I'm going to be compressing the piston. So I'm going to be using my tool to compress it. So now I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw. So when I compress it, the fluid is going to come out. Because if you don't, then all the dirty fluid is going to go back up to the master cylinder. And lock it up. So I'm going to be cleaning my rotors with some brake clean, making sure there's no oil on the rotor. Then if you notice, this rotor is a coated rotor. There's a black coating. Don't remove it, just leave it on. And then later on, when you start road testing it, you might hear a grinding sound. What's happening is this coating is coming off, and eventually that grinding sound is going to go away, and then after that you'll be good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to adjust the emergency brake shoes. So I'm going to be putting on my new rotor. Just slide it on for now, and then spin it. And if it's kind of loose, then what you might have to do is open up the emergency brake shoes. So there's a star adjust over here. You got to turn it to open it up. Just turn it a few clicks and then try it again. Try to fit it again. And if it still feels kind of on the loose side, just open it up a little bit more. You know, just turn it a few clicks and then try to fit it. So that feels real good. There's a very slight drag. That's what you want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be putting some anti-seize around my hub and then put the rotor on. Now I can put the rotor on. Okay, so I'm going to be greasing up my caliper mount. Be putting some grease right in here. Right in here. So I'm going to be greasing up these shims. I'm reusing the old shims. In the kit, they come with new shims. If your old shims are still good, just reuse it. Because if you try put the new shims in, a lot of times it doesn't fit good and it wants to fall out. Nothing wrong with reusing these old shims, as long as it's not broken. Okay, so now we're going to be screwing it on. Okay, so I'm going to be putting on the new pads. Look at the difference between the old and the new. This is the new and this is the old. This guy's all worn out. So I'm going to be putting a little grease on the outside of the inner pad. Just smear it around. You don't need very much, just a thin layer. So I'm gonna be lubricating this caliper. Just put a little grease on the piston and some right on the caliper. Now we can install the caliper. Okay, so I'm going to be lubricating the pins. Now we're going to be flushing out the rear brake. Okay, so I'm going to be removing the brake fluid from the master cylinder. Okay, so now I'm going to be flushing out the rear brake. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw, connecting my Phoenix brake flusher, and I'm going to be pumping fresh fluid from the caliper up to the master. Okay, so we're going to be tightening up the bleeder screw. So I'm going to be removing the brake fluid from the master again. So we're going to be filling up the master cylinder with fresh brake fluid. Okay, so now we're going to bleed the rear brakes. So I'm going to start up the vehicle. So I'm going to be pumping my brake up and down to set the brake pads. Just pump it up and down, no more than halfway, until you feel pressure. Once you feel pressure, now what we can do is, with my hood prop, I'm going to be positioning one against the brake pedal and the other side against the seat to pressurize the system. So I'm going to be bleeding the brake, making sure there's no air in the system. That looks good. So I'm going to be pressurizing my brake system one more time with my hood prop. Okay, going to be shooting some water to dissolve the brake fluid, because brake fluid is water soluble. Blow it down with some air. Wait for about maybe 15-20 seconds and check for leaks. So it looks dry right now, so you're good to go. So that's how you replace the rear brake pads, rear rotors, and adjust the rear emergency brake shoes. If you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Aloha.